Hi all, welcome to another episode of Saturday Architecture. So we have a very simple problem, but I guess the simplest problems are the toughest ones to solve. So Venkat here has an interesting situation. Like he is working for a startup, he's put up a new team together, a couple of team members from his own team, and more than 90% of the team are new. And how do you set up processes such that the architecture that we want to build, the process will support the architecture that we are. So it's kind of interesting when you set up a new team, you have to, as an architect, we have to develop the vision for it and get an architecture in another way is nothing but a technology strategy for the success of business. So once you kind of define, or at least the first version of a technology strategy, which is going to help the business, now you need to help the processes and procedures to aid in the architecture. So Venkat, so for example, I think, can you talk about, before we get to the solution, right? Can you tell what are the challenges that you face, right? Which kind of compelled you to say, I need to have this kind of process. And it's not that you are getting inexperienced people. You're actually getting experience. It's not like you're getting freshers out of college into your project. Even after getting experienced people, there are a lot of challenges that you face. Could be technical, could be functional, could be collaboration between team members, could be people issues. So probably we'll split it into three buckets, right? One is from a technical perspective, another could be functional perspective, and third could be people dynamics. What are the challenges that you face in these three buckets?
Okay, so when you say that technical challenges, as you said, we are developing app in a filter, technology, where we could not find it, talent resources in the particular technology as a flutter. So it is a new technology, and it is difficult to get people in that area. So what we are doing is we are getting experienced people from other technologies, something like Android and iOS. We are trying to train them in the technology. So that's where somewhere it's slowing down the process. That is the one challenge.
So you're not getting an exact technology match what you want.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So give an example of when you say you don't get an exact technology match. What is the technology you're looking for, and the people coming into your team, what are they?
Okay. So the reason we are going for a filter is to address the multi-platform development, right? Single source code, you can address both Android and iOS mobile app development.
Okay.
So I want to set up only one team to address two platforms. That is the main reason we are going for a Flutter. Is something like Xamarin and React Native, so kind of platform. Okay. So here, since the platform itself is managed by Google, and we have more faith on this platform as well, in terms of stability and scalability and the future expansion as well. So that is the main reason we are going with the platform Flutter. And the challenge we are facing here is that, when the people we have already built with one design pattern. So people we are new to this platform, the understanding in the design pattern itself is for first challenge for them.
Right? Okay.
So first they have to understand the design pattern, then they have to understand. Before that, first they have to understand the basics of the language. It is developed in Dart, right? So Dart language itself is new to them. So they have to learn the Dart, and then they have to learn the design pattern. Then only they can able to develop a module. They can work on the projects.
So if I kind of summarize, right, it is basically one, you would have project-specific frameworks or libraries or development tools. Second, it would have its own language, so they will have to learn that. Then third is basically that language will have a way of doing things. Last becomes the trickiest part, that assuming even if a person with all the three from that same technology comes. Third is, in your project, what is the design that you have chosen to improve? What is the implementation approach that you have taken? Understanding that becomes a challenge. So basically, and in your thing, what you have experienced, you have seen, right? What is the time that it takes before a guy comes in, assuming he has he's a good programming background? How long does it take before he can actually start working on a real feature?
Okay, so at least it will take 2 weeks for him to understand the design pattern and the nuances of why we are going for this design pattern. That is also like my reason. Like, you might think that why we need to follow this. Like, what is the advantages? What is the like for this? It is not only about the overall architecture. It is also some language features comes along with it, right? So like that is the reason. And as you finally said, minimum it will take 2 weeks to understand and start working on the project.
Okay, so essentially, before he actually becomes productive, 3 weeks is actually gone.
Yeah, 3 weeks is gone. So that is the like time delay we are facing. Right?
And to do this
challenge.
2 weeks, right? Your existing team's bandwidth also will get consumed, right?
Yes, because they are the one who have to give the KT. They are the one. They have to clear their doubts. Yes.
Okay, so that means if you look at it, right, there will be, let's say, probably some 10% of an existing resources will have to work with that person. So that productivity will also drop, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is one. Then from a functional perspective, right, this is just technology, right?
Yeah.
Now if you add the next dimension of functionality, what are the challenges that, and how long does that take?
Okay, so next challenge is the, like as you said, that coordination. Like so like when we are going for the product meeting, when we are discussing it, like what are the product features we need to go into this particular sprint, and when we are implementing those features, like then some like due to some miscommunication, we could have picked up wrong backlog items, user stories. Then we like, so that is then at the time of 2 or 3 days, then again we are like kind of getting the saying that no, we need these features go into this sprint. So those sometimes those requirements also changes dynamic. So that time teams are having a hard time to like suddenly, like, because they have planned everything according to their existing backlog items. When they wanted to change it, then this is also taking more time to like in the completing this sprint. So this is one of the reasons to sprint like miss the deadline.
Okay, so basically what you're kind of trying to say is because the requirements change, okay, and very quickly, right? What is the priority? Because obviously working in a startup, there is a lot of changes that keeps happening. The team is not able to switch between requirements. They get stuck.
Not switch between. So since they are already working, they already started working on like one backlog items. We cannot lift it and go back, right? So once you have started, you have to like at least complete that backlog items before taking it.
Okay, so how does that create a problem?
So it is because of that we are missing the deadline of the sprint.
Okay. Oh, so you're missing the deadline of the sprint. Okay, got it. And from a
and one more thing is like documentation is like one more problem. So we do not have a as of now we do not have a dedicated person to create documents. So it is without document it is very difficult to communicate between teams what exactly the requirements are, when to start, those kind of strategy is not in place.
So you need some process to indicate the requirements.
Sorry, Deepak, your voice is not audible. Can you please come back in?
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so what I was saying was so you need some sort of a process to communicate the requirements. So you're saying that the current process which you have is a challenge for you right now. The way it is communicating, is that an issue?
Actually, the current process we are setting up right now. Actually, there is no process right now in place.
Yes. Okay.
So in the setting up process, there will be always some difficulties, right? For the first time when we are setting the process.
Right.
So team is new and the process also new. So coordinating between those teams and implementing the process again the one more challenge itself.
So it's a kind of it's a functional and a process thing. How to do this, and what kind of people-related issues do you face?
People-related issues, I didn't face much. So it is sometimes miscommunication. We would be
So what I meant is, for example, people will have different personalities. For example, I guess some team members doesn't like to use mobile phones. Somebody is not a person who will keep talking often. Okay. Or there would be somebody who will who prefers 1 second. So basically it is what I mean to say is people will have different personalities. Now, in the old team you will have got used to it. Somebody would be introvert, somebody will be extrovert, somebody will prefer to do back end, somebody will prefer to do front end. We don't know these things. Those kind of problems do you face, or how does that show up?
Okay, so so those kind of problems we haven't faced yet, because we are right now we are not see, everyone has to work in both front end and back end whenever they got a chance. There is no we are not separating this team only for front end, only for back end. No, we are training in both the technology, something like full stack developers. Everyone who working in our company, we are training them as a full stack developer. So one thing I want to say is we have to train them in a self-responsibility manner. Right now, we have to follow them, each and every things, whether he has done it or not, because right now everyone is also working from home. It's very difficult to track, because sometimes we give some tasks, they might take they might have deviated with some other work, and sometimes one person is working on the multiple things. So we need to tell them which is the priority, which one has to complete first.
But okay, so that takes us. That's a kind of interesting thing, right? People might work on something or do something else. That takes us to the next part, where we could say what are the existing things, how it works, right? Or let's call it, in theory it is supposed to work, but in practice it's not working. Okay, so let's call that illusionary processes not serving results. Okay. Now, as per what we talked before, we have something called a sprint. You have a backlog, you have assigned it, people are supposed to work on that, right? And if a sprint is 2 weeks, we decided that in this sprint we are going to do these 3 tasks. So Kumaran will do issue 375 and 376 in Jira or GitHub or Azure DevOps, whatever. Now I'm supposed to work on that, but from what you are telling, I'm doing something else.
Okay, so like for exact this scenario, yes, I'm not telling this one. So something like consider this scenario, like what had happened this week. So we started a sprint on Wednesday, and that so like for yesterday, like one requirement has came. These features has to be completed first, but unfortunately we didn't take those features because that it was not communicated well, saying that it was the priority. So like we did whatever the backlog items listed in the listed in the system, we picked up some of the backlog items. We started working on it, but so like we never knew that these are the priority one, like which is not communicated well before 2 days before.
So let me understand. So when you do a sprint planning, right, in that sprint you will decide what are the things, and even the product owner or the project manager will be a part of that, and then they agree that. So you run a sprint from one Wednesday to next Wednesday, or one Wednesday to 2 weeks?
Like 15 days.
15 days. So it's a Wednesday to Wednesday then.
Wednesday to Wednesday.
Okay. So on Wednesday, the project manager would have been in the part of that. In that sprint, you would have say that backlog items are there. From this, I'm going to do it in this sprint. You have decided. So on Friday, how will the project manager come and say, no, that is wrong? How does that happen?
Okay, so like here, the since it's a startup company, so our project manager also agreed these are the backlog items should go.
Okay.
And then on Friday, like it came from the management saying that so like these features has to go because the client is waiting. They are expecting something. So that time.
This is the business and technical teams are not coordinating, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly.
Or could it be that maybe it's a realistic thing that a new customer suddenly came on Friday, right? And you have to show that or meet that need.
Yeah, actually, he's not a new customer. He's an existing customer. We did the last sprint for that customer itself.
Okay.
And they had some comments, like what are the they did some small changes in that existing feature, and he also given the comments on Tuesday. Like we thought that okay, we'll take those features later on. Let's complete what are the pending tasks, which is pending for last 15 2 sprint.
Okay, so that is what happens is here as Deepak was telling, it's the business. When you call it management, it is a business stakeholder who comes and tells on Friday that we need to do something else. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So even the project manager is not aware that this change will happen.
Actually, project manager aware of the changes, like these are changes, but it is not aware. He is not aware of the priority.
Okay, got it. So that's kind of interesting. So essentially then you change what is a sprint. So it's like basically that sprint, some 3 days in that sprint, something has happened. We don't know how to hold it. Then something else changes. Interestingly, does this happen regularly?
Not regularly. So it had happened, so far 2 sprints. So for this sprint and the 2 sprints before.
Okay. So in a regular scenario, so let's assume that it's totally you would have done many sprints, right?
Yeah.
Probably 30-40 sprints you would have done already, or maybe even more than that. Out of that 2 sprints only this is happening. For the rest 38 sprints, the developer should not have any problem, no, in that case.
So previously we had a different problem. We didn't so discussed more uh, we didn't clarify more doubts on the user stories. So the
Okay.
developers are given the less timing. At the time of developing only, he has realized that okay, the time is not enough to complete this user story. So there are problems that previously those kind of problems was arising, so we were rectifying one day. So then I got advice from you saying that okay, before starting every sprint we need to discuss in detail. Project manager has to give the user stories 2 days before, so that we need to discuss, then we need to start the sprint. So those kind of advice which we got from you, and we are following it same way.
Okay. So
That
that's
helps us.
the other thing what you're telling is true, right? It can happen at any point in time, such that the dev team is working on, or the technology team decided this is what we will do something. And then there is a business need which comes up. Let's assume that even under best communication scenario, this problem kind of happens. So let's assume that it could be a customer issue or a change in business scenario. Deepak, in your experience, right now, that is a reality. If we kind of just say, for example, a company might have had a 3-year strategy. COVID has messed up everybody's plans. Right. There's nobody on earth whose plan has not been messed up. I don't think there is one single living soul who's not affected by COVID, right? Now, that kind of things that happens, what do you think could be the strategies from an architect and an architecture perspective that somebody can take to handle this? Out of band, let's call it out of planned, unplanned, but real business needs interrupting the flow.
Right. So I think from the team perspective, the important thing which I would consider the highest priority before the process actually comes in is the culture part, right?
Okay.
Because no matter how many process we will put in, if people do not believe the words which are coming out of your mouth that this is the priority, that means this is the real priority, and there is no trust in the system of that whatever my architect is telling me is what is going to really happen. Because so the culture which the architect puts in place as to how the message will be communicated is very important for the people to start adopting to those changes, right? For example, in your scenario, you're saying business changes and then we have to change, and then people may not quickly turn around, right? So in this scenario, I think the most important thing to put in place is, first, people need to understand who they are working for, what they are working for, what is the outcome of what they do, right? So usually when things change, people want to understand why it has changed, right? So because if simply the project manager or the architect comes tomorrow and say, oh, stop working on this, start working on that, people will not simply just say, okay, yes boss, we will do it. If you have a reason behind it, says this is priority because customer needs to launch this product, and this is the priority, this module needs to be delivered, otherwise this will be delayed. If you have some reason for it to change, what I find is people are more ready to accept that change rather than resist it, right? So obviously there'll be some people who are set in their ways. They will always be not, it says you have to give me a plan 1 month in advance, otherwise I will not do anything, right? So those people also need to be handled, right? So they obviously there'll be a lot of things which will be stable. So you have to match the kind of work with the kind of people, right? There are some people who are very enthusiastic about the change, right? They would want to do it, right? So you need to buy them in beforehand, because they are your spearhead. When things change, you need to count on them, and the stable things you need to, because we have to understand people will be people. They are not going to change just because the architect says that you need to do this. So So from the architect and the product owner's perspective, what you need to look at is make sure that people understand why they are doing it and match the kind of work with the kind of enthusiasm they have for that kind of work. Because in all projects, there'll be a lot of stable work which needs to be done day in, day out, which can be planned in months in advance. Right?
So to get a little more clarity on specific things on what you're telling, right? So let me give a persona, okay, and you kind of say how you would handle it, okay? So persona 1 is the guy who is very good technically, okay, but he's very structured and rigid. I need A, B, C, I will get it done, okay? Right. How do you handle that person?
So that structured person,
and that too, if he, and we are talking about, let's say these are critical good guys. They are not like your average or this thing. So how will you handle?
So my sort of input for the kind of work that possibly can be done is they should do the core architecture work, the core of the product, which will remain, which has decided for a longer duration, which has to be built, which has to be solid, right? Which will not change that rapidly, right? Okay. And they should also be included in making that solid architecture, because if they're technically good and they want stable things, so they are naturally inclined to make stable stuff, right? So it is better to put them at the core where things are more stable.
Okay, so basically, hi Ram, we were just talking about team ramping up, setting up new teams and dealing with challenges around that. And as an architect, what we can do. So essentially, Deepak, what you're telling is, for that guy who is technically good, who likes that, use him in the core part where he's not actually end user facing, where the changes will not be that much, and the architect has more control over it. Like the core framework, maybe the caching framework, maybe the rendering framework, or within that thing, which is not end customer facing.
Right.
Got that. Okay. Then there is actually this kind of leads to that thing, like there is another person who is very enthusiastic, who will do quickly things, willing to listen. Put him on the front where he can take end user facing features. Okay.
Absolutely.
That follows logically. Now I'm going to make this up the challenge for you. Okay. Now we have this kind of developers who won't tell anything. Right? Now, whatever you say, they will nod their head. Now, you don't know they are not. They'll be like, you explain a lot of things. They'll be like, ah. No, you don't know what that means. It means like I don't get it, or I clearly understand it, or I will do it. Will you do it? So again, you don't know whether it means that he will get it done, or he is doubtful, or he will try. Correct? Now, there is a bunch of. In fact, that is a pretty large bunch, right? Who are like indeterminate from a skill attitude. What do you do with that?
So I think then that is again a culture thing, right? So that is, I'm not saying that is something which can be cured very quickly. This is
maybe just to kind of get that. It's not. We shouldn't look at that segment as a process which can handle that. A process won't be able to handle it.
A process won't be able to handle it. I think it is the important part there is the one what I call as the culture of accountability, right?
Okay.
Right. So it's not about. I don't really care about the verbal cues or you nodding your head. I'm caring about whether you're accountable for what you have signed up to do. Right. So and this is where also where they are where you are looking at these people. So again, the role which you have to play with them is whether you want to coach them or you want to teach them, right? So if you are a coach, then they are players, right? So they have to play and play the game by the skill which they have, right? But if they need to be taught, then you have to lead them the way and you have to tell them step by step, this is what I expect you to do. Because sometimes, so this is a judgment which you have to make, because whether this person requires that coaching or this is just a verbal cue that I'm not really listening to you. So the what you can set up the culture of accountability where it says I am worried about the output of what
Actually,
you
that
are
is very
committing to do.
interesting. That's very interesting, right? Now, accountability setting is somewhere between culture and process. It's
Right.
not exactly a process thing, nor it's accountability, responsibility. Now, typically, that is usually controlled by the project manager in conventional projects, right? It's not like the architect is responsible, is there to make sure responsibility gets within team members. What do you think an architect can do such that he doesn't come out as a project manager, or the project manager doesn't think that, hey, what, you're doing my job? That guy's, how well he's doing his job is my job. As an architect, why are you interfering in my job? How do you handle?
So I think one of the key outputs of architect is the quality of the product.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that is where you can ask for accountability from the team.
Okay.
Right. It may not be specific to what order tasks you do, because that is a project management thing. But the quality of what you are producing is definitely an accountability ask from the architect to the team. Right.
That's a good perspective. Okay.
Right. So you may not be able to control specific tasks. Right. That is not there. But once those tasks are done, and also, you see, you may not be owner of the schedule, but you still own the timeliness of things to be done, right? If you produce an architecture which is very hard to produce in the time which is taken, right? So all those things will matter, because sometimes you will, as an architect, you will make it hard for the team to deliver quality, because if you make something hard to do, they are going to compromise on something and on the quality and try to bring out the product in time, right? So that is where the architect needs to take the accountability that the quality is not just driven by what I produce in terms of technical terms, but also in terms of what is actually possible for the team to do, because estimate of how long it takes to do something is also provided by the architects.
Got it.
Right.
So I think we have another 10 minutes. So Ram, in your setup, right, obviously you would have faced these challenges. So we're talking about things like changes keeps happening. We plan for something, whether it is sprint or agile or regular, you plan for something else comes up. Okay. And we have two kinds of people in the team, rather three kinds of people. One, technically good, very clear, but they want structure. You tell me something, next 2 weeks, don't disturb me. I will get it and I will give it to you. Don't ever come and even see my face. If you come, I won't give you anything. That character. Then you have another person who says, hey, you tell me whatever, I will get it done and I will give it to you. Okay. Then there is the third character, which is basically, I would say, who is like, you don't know where they are. Are they helpful? Are they harmful? Are they technically good or not? So they kind of put a color to it, right? I will call the first one is a red to change. Dynamic changes, they are a red to it. They are not suitable for a dynamic changing environment. Okay. Even though they are technically good. Then you have the greens who can adapt and do things. And then you have the yellows. So how will you deal with the three of them when the business needs and the requirements are changing?
Right. So basically, we see this as culture. Okay, as Deepak pointed out, and it also related to the people management skills of the guys who are managing these kind of varieties of people. So, at times people who are very much talented and who are resistant to change, and, those people are also, key assets. Okay. So they have the talent and capabilities, but, they are looking for a certain way of communication with them. Right. So we have to understand that way of communication or that mode of communication. Certain people don't like micromanagement. Okay, even I myself fall under that category, right?
Okay.
So, there are certain ways of, interacting with them. And, if we are totally trustful that given the details and if that guy is capable of in understanding, internalizing and implementing, maybe we have to, give the gap, and we have to get things done from them. So I see that, though they are read, it all depends on the way we communicate to, keep it as read, but still get things done out of them.
So give
Okay.
me an example wise, right? When you came, how will you communicate to them? It can be some sample scenario, right? How will you tell them or ask them? How would you do that?
Yes. So we have to talk to them in the language that they, understand better. Meaning, like say for example, you may be having certain things happened in my own team. Okay, when we were, beginners and we were in the on-site timelines. So the business users got very much, happy with whatever deliverable we were giving, and they wanted to have a kind of session, and they kept a socializing session. They ordered for pizza and all, and people from business as well as from technology, that is our team, went there, and we were together. And business team started talking so much about all our achievements, and they were expecting something back from us in turn. Okay. It was almost
So in essence, they gave you pizza to get more stuff.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some kind of see, they really appreciate what we are doing. At the
Okay.
same time, they are not able to communicate with us in a way that they usually do among their own team members.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So they are arranging for some socializing session, and they arrange for some pizza, and they are trying to ease out, that gap. So
Okay.
those are some of the small things that we can attempt, to get things done from such kind of tough group or tough people, right?
So I think that's a good point. So basically something like create some typically a kind of non-technical kind of a interaction scenario with the Reds, so that you can connect a little more at a personal and an emotional level. It need not be direct.
So you just go out of your typical interaction mode. Okay. So forget about that existing piece. You just choose something totally different, which is not relevant to your day-to-day interaction, mode. And that will help out, to certain extent to alleviate this,
Beautiful
issue.
point. Beautiful point. So basically what you're telling is move away from tactical, okay, and generally talk about the context. So it's a kind of sharing each other and understanding each other. So there is an opportunity for empathizing with the other person on the other side. So basically creating opportunities for empathizing with each other.
Yeah.
And
so mostly this comes from, some level of egoistic, mindset, right? So if you are feeding their ego, maybe it'll help you indirectly. Okay. So you're going down to, their level. Okay. So, or you're keeping them on a, very higher side, giving some kind of appreciation. It is not a typical appreciation. Oh, you did a good job and all. Okay. It is a kind of indirect way of conveying it in a better, way. Okay.
So acknowledging their skills or their value, but in a subtle manner, not like directly. Okay. That's
so
a good
answering the question of what's in it for me, right? So that is, why should I do what you're asking me to do, right? So what is in it for me? That is the standard term which we use in change management. Why should I listen to you? What is in it for me?
And okay, the tougher ones are the yellows, right? Who are kind of like, they'll do this half shake of the head. Okay. How do you handle, what is it that you do for that?
So I think that, so this is a question for Ram. Go ahead, Ram.
No. I was about to say that, I mean, the very first success, comes out the moment you identify these categories. Okay. So as long as you're clear on what kind of people you're dealing with,
Okay.
then the next activity is to identify the strategy to interact with them, right? So certain people, as you pointed out, they will say, okay, we will do everything, and maybe at the end of the day, they may not, come out with whatever they have agreed. Okay, so those kind of people, I think we have to, keep tracking. Okay, and we have to keep pointing out, like, the incidents. We have to pull out from the history. Like, you've been saying all these things in the past and nothing happened. Okay, we have to pull out those incidents, and we have to make them understand that this is not going to work out on long term basis. Okay, so again, this may be a very simple process that might help in adjusting or adjusting the behavioral imperfections of these kind of people. And similarly, there are people who will not be in a position to scale up, but they are really wanting to. Okay, so we may have to give some kind of training options for them, and we have to, so there are different things. All we need to know is to identify them in each of these categories. As you pointed out, just 3 categories. There may be much more,
Yeah.
based on various scenarios, right? So once you classify and identify these categories, then it's totally dependent on creativity, on how effectively you can handle what kind, and you have some privileges, okay, from your management. Like, if you need, you can offer some free training for some of the people, right? If you need, you have some ability to throw some pizza party, or stream outing with the team members. So you have to leverage those privileges given to you. So basically, it all depends on how well you can socialize, how well you can win the trust, of people in each of those categories, and how well they value, your appreciation, in each of these categories. So it depends on many things. All comes under people management, is my opinion.
Excellent. Okay. So I think those are great points, right? So to kind of summarize, right? Usually I take the red, yellow, green because in a high power world it's easier, at least that at a broad level, right? It's easier to. But if I kind of summarize, for yellows, it's something like track them, which means shorter deadlines and kind of make sure. Probably give them more training and support so that they don't get lost. So tracking and support, if they go hand in hand, then they could probably become green over a period of time.